Welcome to FitHer. I am your host, Kristen Hislop, and this is where strong women share real stories, expert insight, and bold truths about health, fitness, and living fully, because your journey matters. Now, let's get into it for today. We have a special guest with us, Judy Torel, and Judy has been involved in the world of fitness and health for a little while, but you have changed your path over the years. And so we're going to talk about that and talk about where your focus is now and why you're focusing there and what people really need to know. So let's start a little bit with your own personal fitness journey and where you got started and how that's evolved over time.
Yeah, great. It has evolved. My whole career, you have to kind of stay with the changing of the culture and the society and the demand and the science and all that. So where I am right now, was not anywhere near where I started out at the beginning. I went to school for broadcast journalism. Mm-hmm. But while I was in school and high school, honestly, for mental health reasons, I started found running. And honestly, to this date, and that was 45 years ago now, I still do most of all my fitness things. My first reason is stress management and mental health. And then there's secondary gain of all the fitness benefits. And now, the science is now showing the longevity, right? So, I went to school for that, decided I didn't want to do broadcast journalism, but while I was in school, I had paid for part of my tuition I became an aerobic instructor coming off the running from high school. And then, I kind of saw, this was at the time, Kristen, aerobic studios were just kind of coming into vogue. There was all multi-gyms, mostly for males, right? And so these aerobic studios were popping up. So Karen Voigt in LA, I went and saw. Molly Fox in New York, I went and saw. I went around the country to these major hubs and I was Albany, we're about 2 to 5 years back.
Yep.
I go, I can be the leader here, right? So I got some investment capital, money I'd saved, opened up an aerobic studio. From there, it became a full facility gym for 20 years. While I was doing that, personal training kind of started to come into vogue, got the credentials to be a personal trainer, then a life coaching and nutrition coaching, got the credentials to be a certified nutritionist. Then it was health coaching. And now I'm in a PhD for lifestyle medicine because the medical world is collapsing and we're recognizing that, everyday habit patterns is really your best medicine. So, kind of staying, watching what my clients needed and wanted and were coming into demand. And then, I am a lifelong learner, so just kept, accumulating credentials. And as I was doing all that for my work and my career, I went from running 5Ks into running marathons and then into, bicycling and then into triathlons and then into Ironmans and then, long distance running and then Ironmans and kind of toggle back and forth between those two. And that's kind of where I am still.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. And so, one thing I think is so fun to me, at least, is that you've taken your passion and made it your profession. And some people will say you can't do that because you'll get burned out and you won't enjoy it. You enjoy it. So why? What have you done to stay in love with what you do?
Every day I am, especially as I'm aging now, I'm 60, almost 63, and I do still have my passion and my drive. I call it I'm juiced for it still. Every day I'm grateful. It found me, I didn't find it, but I aligned with it, right? And I think in reflecting on that question, every day, I've kind of come up with my top 5 things that I need to do every single day to feel like purpose. I'm going to do top 3 right now. Yeah. The first one for me is I want to feel like I help people. I help somebody that day, right? And my career is about helping people, right? Mm-hmm. The second one is I want to feel like I've learned something new, right? Mm-hmm. So if I go and lay my head at bed at night, I'm if I help somebody and learn something new, I feel fulfilled. And then the third thing is I have to exercise for 2 hours a day. Which kind of feeds my soul on that level and my body and keeping fitness and longevity and health. So that's what juices me still. And I hope it does till the day I die.
Well, but it will, and that'll be a long time off.
I hope so.
Because as we're doing more and learning about longevity, you hit on it, right? It's that community. It's like you're doing something for people and feeling like you've gotten something back, but you're doing that because you're working with them.
Doing for
right?
somebody else versus just yourself.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then the health and like all of those components. I mean, that's really looking at longevity. You've done you're pivoting and doing different things and working with different groups. You've got a big focus on the 50 plus group, but let's just think right now, because one of the things I look at in working with high school students is how do we get the younger people to understand what we now know at our age and how critical it is and important it is to do that research, keep your brain working, keep your body working, and do it in a community. How did we get the younger people going, okay, yeah, it makes a little bit of sense. I don't need it now, but maybe later.
So I'm going to tell you my hack or my tip for what I'm doing for my 50 plus people. I have a lot of clients, and the reason why I've kind of focused in the 50 plus is when I turned 50, which is like ancient history now. I was like, this is my peer group, and I know it best because I'm there and I know the research and the science and that. So I kind of focused in on that. But, when I'm working with someone who's 50 or 60, and the science shows this, I say to them, listen, you're doing this right now because you're going through perimenopause, or you put belly fat on, or you lost your muscle mass as a guy, and, you got some health issues. I said, but everything you're doing right now, you got to have the long game in mind, right? At the same time that you're paying attention to now, everything you're doing right now with your habit patterns is an investment in your 80s. And you're going to get to your 80s, and you're going to either go down this path or this path. And so for younger people, like I have the people in my 50s, I would say that I wish that when you were 30,
right,
you had the long game in mind. And so that's what I would say to younger people. It's like you got to be in the here and now, but the wise person is going to be, I'm going to use Iron Man as an example. You're in the moment, and in the moment you're feeling XYZ, your legs are going to fall off, you can't, you're exhausted, everything hurts, and you can say, right now, or everything's going great and I'm feeling really good, but like if I keep pushing at this, like I have to, what's my ultimate goal is to finish, and am I going too much, or am I going too little? Like you've got to have this kind of dual approach. And that's what that's my selling point to the younger, like 20s and 30s.
Right.
You're investing right now in your 50s. So
Well,
what are you doing?
I like that investing, right? Because it's just like finances. Like you ought to be investing at that age, right? So start doing it, but do it in your health as well, and your activity level and everything.
They're paying attention to that too. Like they have that skill set in their finances, hopefully, or they're at least thinking about it. And so whenever someone has a skill set over here, I'm like, you're doing it here, just apply it over here in your health.
Right.
Right.
So you are big into research and love learning. I know you just did a little thing on electrolytes and kind of did a deep dive there. Do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah. That saved me in my, Ironman World Championship race because the year I did it, it was excessively hot. But the day of my race, it was even hotter than normal. The DNF rate for the elites was usually 7%. It was 19.
Yeah.
So really brutal. And I went into it as a postmenopausal female with a changing heat regulation system, which I don't have it nailed down yet. And I'm an excessive sweater.
Right.
And an excessive electrolyte sweater, because there's two different ones. You can sweat a lot but not have a lot of salt and potassium, and then you can sweat a lot and have a lot of salt and potassium. So I'm both. And so my research into the electrolytes saved me because I had to find the right combination. And so without going to a deep dive in electrolytes right now, because that's not our purpose, but what I'd say about it is there's so many products out right now, and they do significantly vary in the amount of sodium, the amount of potassium, those two in particular, and then the amount of carbohydrate that's in there. And depending on who you are, you got to pick the right one for you.
Yeah.
Your own personal sweat rate, but then also, like for instance, somebody's not an endurance athlete, and they have high blood pressure, and then they're picking for their pickleball, like the 1,000 milligrams
liquid IV.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And you've got to, educate yourself or
and I think
work
that's
with somebody.
a challenge, right? Because I know, like a lot, and especially the younger kids, all well, everybody's having liquid IV, so I'm having liquid IV. I'm like, okay, that would wreck my stomach because it's so high in sodium. I can't do that. My boys both can do it.
Right.
That's what they need.
Right.
So yes, I think like doing deep dives like that, and then you did a podcast on it, so people can go look that up. But it's super important just not to go with what, well, that tastes good.
Just whatever.
Yeah, that's nice, but
Exactly.
not. And again, it's your purpose too. If you're going out for a mile walk, you're probably not having to
sweat so much, right?
Exactly. Right, and look at electrolytes and stuff. But even I think for a lot of people, like becoming aware of what's in the products that they're ingesting.
And let me just say one more thing.
Yeah.
Because there's a couple, 5 years ago or so, I was investing in trying to isolate how can I measure sodium and, the electrolytes that someone's losing. And it was like, unless you went to a human performance lab, like, Denver, Colorado, like, Boulder or whatever, you weren't able to really get that information. But there's wearables that are coming out. Yeah. They're out now, and I used one.
I have one.
Yeah.
You and I are both like, you were like, we'll test anything.
And they're not, they're not cheap, but they're not expensive either.
It's to your health,
Absolutely.
Right? Because if you are taking in too much salt on a regular basis, that's not good, just
from a health
good, right?
Yes, that's where I was going. I have clients that I'm working with that are not endurance athletes that are just like trying to get into running, and they have high blood pressure. I don't want them on the high sodium ones. I want them on the higher potassium potentially. And, there's a lot of nuance to it now, and you can hurt yourself and your health if you use the wrong one chronically. Right.
Well, and I think that's a good point of like across the board, right? What works for someone does not necessarily work for you.
Exactly.
So you really, that's where going and working with somebody on a one-on-one basis is much better because you're going to get what you need versus what a whole group of people need.
And you're hitting on one of my pet peeves right now, and one of my sticking points. I'm very careful about this with clients, because research is now like God, and science studies are quoted left, right, and sideways, right? And 40 years ago, if someone quoted a science study, it was repeated measures. There was 40 of them that found the same thing, and it was generalizable. Now it's like someone's quoting one study. It was 17 people, and it might be your gender, or maybe it might even be hundreds of thousands of people. But I tell everybody, but you're an N of one. In other words, you're a case study of one. And just because you're a postmenopausal female doesn't mean that what's being put out now, like generalized, all postmenopausal females should give up their cardio and just do heavyweight training, because that's out right now.
It is.
And I'm measuring people's body composition. I'm saying to some women, I'm like, look, your muscle mass is over the high end, like not in a bad way, but uber good.
Yeah.
You are not someone but your body fat, however, is too high. So you've got to, do a little bit different than what's being put out for the general. So you got to be careful with that.
Yes.
So,
and I think that's very true.
Individualizing
with the research now, because there's studies. I saw a study a couple of weeks ago. It was like 3 people in the study. How can you possibly have? There's no statistical significance in there. But
and the
they're
media
getting published.
Though gets a hold of it, and this has happened where one outlet quotes it, and now it's viral. Right. Like everybody's quoting it, and it's 3 people. Yeah. That's an extreme example, but right.
Exactly. No.
So again, you have to be careful. Just because there's science out there, you have to question the science, and then you have to question, does it apply to you? Right?
So what's your area that you're looking at now, like that you're really wanting to learn more about?
The science coming out that your habit patterns are more effective in many times than the symptom management medications.
Yeah.
That you can actually reverse and prevent, reverse, and improve by making exercise a medication as opposed to a statin or a statin alone. Partly why I got involved in this, took on this PhD program, because I want to be part of like the front wave. So I mean, like right now, the traditional medical world and medical insurance, like what I say to everybody is it's collapsing as we're standing on it. Like you can see the faults, and it's going to go down, right? Because too many people are sick. Too many people are, utilizing their insurance money, so now they have to have higher premiums to make up for that. And the interesting thing is that, the top 5 things that are prematurely killing, not just Americans, but globally, heart disease being the first one, cancer hot on its tail, right? Metabolic diseases, accidents, that's not one that's, but right. All like the top, like the most of the top 10 and definitely the top 5 are 80 to 90% lifestyle related. Right. Like 100 years ago, like pathogens were taking us out. Bacterias, influenza, like all that.
Animals.
Exactly. Tick, Lyme, right. Whatever, But now that's not the case. Now it's lifestyle, and then corruptions to our body ongoingly causing things that are in there. If they're killing us, and if they're not killing us, absolutely a reduction on the quality of our lives.
Right.
And what you do with your exercise patterns, with your eating, with your sleep, with your stress resilience, stress management, with your community involvement, social, that tribal piece. Those are the top 5 that, you've got to be looking at. And they, if you're off on the sleep, but your diet's really good, I have clients that'll be like, I eat really well, but I still have XYZ. I'm like, well, let's talk about your sleep. Right. Oh, yeah, I'm not so good on that. Right. Let's talk about your stress management. Oh, yeah, I'm not so good on that, right? Mm-hmm. It's like a matrix.
Yes. So I gave you some questions before, but I knew this was going to happen with us. Wearables, mm-hmm. right? It gives you so many metrics. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think about all that? Like, where are you on that whole thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember when the step trackers first came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, another thing to track. Are you kidding me? I love them now. I ask clients that question to get an idea of not their fitness level, but how much movement they get. Because there's young people right now, I have this in my client base, they go to the gym every day, they work out an hour, they go home, they take a shower, they're working from home, they're in, IT, marketing, whatever, they're sitting for 12 to 14 hours and they're throwing blood clots. So, like if I ask them, how many steps have you taken? And they say 500, right. Or they say 8,000, that's going to give me as their, programming coach, insight as to what we might need to do, right? So, I think a lot of the wearables are phenomenal.
Well, and I think it is, exactly. And so if you know what you're looking at, mm-hmm. it can be hugely valuable. Mm-hmm. If you don't, it can create stress and anxiety.
Absolutely.
And I've done the DNA testing, and my boys are like, I'm not doing that. And part of it is they're young, and they're like, well, what if I find something?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, there's that too. And I think a lot of people they track their sleep. They have the Apple Watch, and they're closing their circles, and they're doing things. And some of it's really good, and some of it is just too far and too over the top.
Absolutely. But you just made me think of something else. About 50, 70 years ago, I think 50, when we discovered the genome, and now it was like, oh, we have the secret now. Like if you go genetic flaw, you're going to get heart disease. Genetic flaw, you're going to have Alzheimer's. Or genetic flaw, you're going to have, diabetes, whatever. And now, fast forward to now, epigenetics. Are you familiar with that term? Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know it yet. So epigenetics is basically, since we've had the genome, and I'm going to illustrate it this way, they've got identical twin studies. One twin has heart disease and the other one doesn't. So if it's purely genetic, right. They should both have it, right? Or neither one have it. So that's just my way of illustrating to people epigenetics. Genetics, we all have genetic flaws. I have clients, my mother had heart disease, my father had heart disease, her father, blah, blah, blah. It's my genetics. But epigenetics shows now you can have flawed genes, but depending on what you're doing with your habit patterns and your life, like lifestyle as medicine, you can either express those genes will either express or not, right? So I think the wearables and these, the blood tests and all this kind of stuff is giving you insight. So if you do show that you've got the DNA for the BRCA,
right.
Or whatever gene that's saying it's not fate now. Right. It's that means that gives you insight. You've got that. You are someone then who has to be extra vigilant about whatever it is that you see, versus someone else who can be they don't have that genetic flaw and they have a little more wiggle room, right? Mm-hmm. And so from that point of view, I think, again, these tests and the wearables are helpful, really helpful.
Right. Oh, yes, and I'm somebody who...
And somewhat addictive, too.
Yes, I think they're all super interesting, so I like to do it.
Exactly.
You learn. And sometimes I even have gone so far as to wear a continuous glucose monitor. For no reason other than I did a test with UCAN on Morton, UCAN, and GU.
Okay.
Gels, and exercising to see, like, what happens to blood sugars. I just found it incredibly interesting as I...
Did you have different reactions to each gel?
I did.
Because there's different...
It's very different. And again, everybody reacts differently. But what impacts... There are certain things that impact my blood sugar. Crazy. Potato chips. Not really a surprising one. Pineapple. Right? That you would probably guess. The biggest one is stress.
Stress?
Stress.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of my...
like, everyone thinks it's food.
Yes.
Nope. For me, that would just get it right up.
Yep.
But
because when you're in fight or flight,
how fast it drops, and
when you're in fight or flight, your liver, releases, and your pancreas releases or sends the messages, chemical messages, to spill sugar because if you had to run away from a wild animal, you better have some blood sugar there to draw from, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I forgot. I said, back in another credential I had, I went when I started getting into personal training, I went back and got a master's degree in counseling psychology for stress because the mental piece is as much a factor in this as all the physical stuff. Absolutely.
Well, and you know that from doing Ironman. It's not a physical event. It's a mental event.
It's both, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, like, a lot of people can train the physical side of it, but training the mental side of it, that's where the mental and the nutrition, I think, is where people really fall off.
I think you're right.
They don't know how much.
Right. They do. They get the training program or they get the coach or whatever, and then they're tackling 1/3 of the components that have to go into it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So you do focus, or not focus, but you have programming that's focused on the 50 and above age group. What do you wish more people in that age bracket knew so that they would even come to you to do more? Like, how could we make them more proactive?
I think we've already hit on it. I think, we have our science, our medical world, our education, everything is what I call the zoom lens approach right now. Like, we're reductionistic and specialized. We look at, like, the science, we're going to control for all these factors, and they'll look at these two and how they interact, and then come out with, like, how they interact. But in real life, they don't happen in a vacuum. They're being affected by, a matrix of other things. And so I think, and this is for my 50 plus, but it's for all ages, because I do work with all ages too, but it's kind of helping people to say, they're like, I'm eating really well, but I still have high cholesterol. Well, it's stress management. Because in addition to throwing blood sugar, your body's producing cholesterol under stress to make cortisol. So getting away from this zoom, kind of like this, like, tunnel vision, like, uber focus on one component and help people to stand back and take what I call the panoramic view. And let's look at the 6 different pillars of, lifestyle as medicine or whatever we're looking at. If you have a certain, if you're training for something and you want to just improve your performance, or if you've got a health issue and you want to back out of that, we've got to stop looking at just this, like, one piece and look at the whole picture.
And I would guess that most people come to you with the one piece. They want to lose weight.
Yes.
They know they need to build muscle. So, but they're not necessarily thinking of all the pieces.
Kind of peripherally they are, but their approach is, let me just nail this piece. Right. If I just lose, I hear this all the time. Yeah. If I just lose weight, my doctor said all my numbers are going to get better. I'm like, maybe.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So let's handle that diet piece, but it's probably going to be some other things too, right?
Yeah. It's really hard, right? Because we know that people should be doing more of a lot of things. But when people come in and talk to you, do you have like I want to work on the nutrition with you first versus the strength, or is it really, really individual?
So, to your point, Kristen, people come in, they're like, I want to lose weight, I want to gain muscle, I want to lower my cholesterol, I want to increase my bone density, for this 50 plus category. And so they come in with what they're like focused on, and I'm going to focus on that because that's what they're coming in on. But I've got evaluation machines that do, like, call it like the fitness MRI, or like what's under the hood. And so I have a machine that measures their resting metabolic rate. I've got a machine comparable to a DEXA scan, but less expensive, and you don't have the medical clearance to have to even operate it. And so it's going to give me a bone mineralization count. It's going to give me visceral fat. It's going to give me inflammation marker that it measures from how much fluid is outside your cells versus inside. So now I'm getting like kind of the canary in the tunnel kind of input. So I'm going to then design a program that's going to be for what they came for. But then in that program, I'm going to say, okay, we got this address, but there's some other things over here. Like, how do you feel about, like, now that we got the food piece going, I see that we really do need to do some bone building for you. You want to take on some of the fitness stuff, or, we got the health thing, some anti-inflammatory eating, but like, your visceral fat's really high, so kind of like backdooring it,
Right, exactly. Yeah, to get them to get that
exactly
view, because that's what I think is super cool about the wellness medicine, and that's not true of traditional.
Mm-hmm.
You go in traditional and say, my back hurts. Okay, I'm going to look at your back and I'm going to fix that. Well,
there's that zoom lens.
No, that's not where the issue is. It's probably someplace else in the chain. And I love that about wellness medicine, because it is that holistic look, right? So I think that's important for people to kind of understand and really start looking at.
And I think more important, honestly, like, because we have been in this kind of like, people are getting very frustrated because they have the back, they go get the injection or the surgery, maybe on the worst case scenarios, or PT or whatever, and now they're addressing that, but like they're still eating inflammatory, or they're still sitting for like 12 hours straight, in a row, and like not breaking that up. And so I just see a growing population of people that are getting frustrated by this kind of like, just treat the presenting problem, and are looking for this more holistic, like kind of integrative kind of approach.
Yeah. What do you see? And this is totally a like side conversation kind of almost, but I think it's interesting because you're a competitive person. You've done competitive events in various ways over the course of your life. As you're working with the younger population, how competitive do you see them? The reason I'm asking is the Run for Women, hear from a lot of the 20, early 30, I don't compete. I don't race. And I'm wondering if you see any of that.
Well, I think the generations under baby boomers, okay, I think I'm going to take a psychological profile on this. There's so much like competition and self-negative talk going on because social media, you're comparing yourself to, I don't know, the Kardashians, everybody who's like perfect, you know what I mean? And then you're like, or the runners that are breaking records, and you're like, I'm never going to be that. So you kind of demotivate yourself before you even get out the gate, right? And so I think it's coming from a psychological point of view, and I think that something's always better than nothing. You know what I mean? Like, and those elite runners, they might have been gifted genetically, but like they practice. Like, so
they work really hard.
Yeah, go to the Couch to 5K, take the take the Run for Women's, the run training to get you up to speed for it. Do the walk run. I mean, what you get from doing it from a physical point of view, from a personal empowerment point of view, it's better than any antidepressant, any anti-anxiety, any, drug that you're going to try and take to increase all these peptides that are out right now for increasing athletic performance. Like, you got to do it, exactly. And let go of in this case, we're going to reverse it. Don't worry about the end. The end result is just finish. And that's where you start. Get to that, and then you can work on improving. Right?
Yeah. No, I love that. Okay, we could talk about stuff forever. So we'll definitely have you back, and we'll go dive into a specific topic. But we have a little segment that we're calling Final Kick, which is just a couple of fun questions. So the first one is, what is your favorite post-workout snack?
Oh, boy.
I know. Which is going to be different because if you're lifting, so you could pick like after a hard ride or like what?
I'm going to probably be against the whole, like, what most is being recommended, whatever. Like, my workouts are all, like, it's part of my regular day, and my post-workout is my next meal.
Yeah.
Like, so if it was a morning workout, it's going to be, breakfast. I never work out first thing in the morning. I'm either at work or I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So usually it's going to be in the afternoon, and my post-workout meal is going to be my lunch, or it's like later in the day and it's going to be my dinner.
And you butt right into it.
Yeah, so I'm really not big on the 0.8 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight within a half an hour. I'm not buying into so much of that. I think elites might need that sort of specificity, but if you follow all the recommendations for like what you should have before and then during and then after, we'd all be morbidly obese, even though we're exercising ourselves to death, right?
Yeah.
So my personal practice is keep myself on my meal plan, and I have, and that it would be, I don't know, it would be, I'm really big into fish. I would have today I had swordfish, I had purple potatoes, and I had this slaw, a fermented slaw, and that's what I had after my workout.
Yeah. That sounds good, actually. Favorite way to recover?
Favorite way?
So it can be something you do or a modality.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me think about this. Yeah, I think right now I'm really into teaching this to people, but I've discovered it and I love it. It's called Kirtan Kriya, and it's a meditation, and it involves acupuncture meridians and tonality and anchoring your mind so you're not thinking about everything else. It's Satanama, and each time you touch, there's meridians that end in your fingers.
Yeah.
And, coming after a workout, I would take a shower, clean up, and then you're kind of revved up,
Yeah.
and then usually starving. So before I even eat my recovery meal or my meal, I want to calm down my nervous system a little bit. And it's not just for recovery from athletics. It's like just in the middle of a day. And this is my new thing. Yeah. And I'm teaching it as a stress management tool. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's amazing what just doing that can do, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So this is a choice. You can choose your favorite workout or a favorite workout or a favorite place to work out.
What is it, seasonal? Because it depends on.
Know, right? You can choose.
Okay,
What's your favorite season?
Well, favorite place to work out depends on the season. Like if it's in the winter.
But what's your favorite season?
To work out, or just in general?
Overall.
Summer, definitely.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I'm a summer girl.
Yeah.
Right now. I'm like, why am I living here?
I know, exactly. Yeah.
Because it's cold. That's an interesting question, because it does vary depending on the time of year and like this, that, and the other thing. My
So
favorite.
it's hard for people in the winter, so let's pick winter.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
in the winter, that's like kind of recovery time. I'm still working. I still have keep my volume, but my base. But I'm not necessarily specifically, biking. I don't bike in the winter outside or inside, honestly.
Yeah.
Here's my favorite. I get on my elliptical. I have my pad on there. I'm watching streaming, Murder Wives
Right.
Club, and I'm just in zone 2,
Yeah.
and I'm just going and I'm watching that. The rest of the world can blow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm getting, and I get off. I feel rejuvenated, de-stressed. I've been entertained.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
That's awesome. I love it. Now, important question. How do people get in touch with you, follow you? You're in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I'm on every social media. So if you just search my name, you're going to find my Facebook, my Instagram, I have a YouTube station as well with podcasts that I'm putting out information. judytorel.com is my website. So it's almost, you have to be under a rock to not find me.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
We
Yeah.
will delve into more topics later, but as we close, we'll just say what we always do. What you do next matters most. So let's all get out there and be fitter.